So we're going to be looking at the last aspect of the T factor, which is for this week 5. So we're rounding up this conversation today with just a bit of reflection and, looking further on the subject of spirituality. Um, I feel is a critical thing I need to deal with and then give you further insights on how I've been able to build up my life as it is today. It's a journey and I'm still walking in the journey. I've not arrived yet at my destination because I know exactly what I'm trusting to attain, right? And if you understand my premise, when I started a few days ago talking about the spiritual dimension, I told you that this is the most important dimension in life. This is the most important aspect of life, which many people casualize, many people trivialize, many people don't usually take full cognizance of it. Perhaps because you don't get immediate benefit from it. It's not like a cash cow that you just enter and then you enjoy or you take benefit and you walk away and all of that. It requires a lot of labor. It requires some level of consistency and all of that before you can begin to see results. And of course, the area of discernment is also very important. So I need to show you, while you're trying to prepare yourself and then come to terms with the importance of this dimension, there's a need for you to then integrate into all aspects of your lives. And what I mean by that is the fact that you need to ensure that your spiritual life, the spirituality that you're attaining or you're embracing has direct impact in all areas of your life because as it is, life is spiritual. So that's what we want to actually look at. And I'll begin by explaining to you what spirituality means. For me, I see spirituality as a way of you seeking for something that is transcendental, something that is beyond human realm, that is beyond human control, that is not influenced by man, by human. Okay. It's something that defines meaning of all things. When you look at this thing from sociological or no philosophical perspective, like the question we used to ask in philosophy class, philosophy 101, what is that big thing that cannot contain itself? Okay, something that is so big that will not contain itself. Or when we are talking about the power behind creation, the purpose of creation and the process of creation, then what is that thing? Or if in other arguments, what is that person that is behind all of these premises? The premise of power, the premise of process, the premise of purpose. So these are valid arguments that anyone can have. And sometimes you don't get answers, at the level of humanity. You don't get answers by articulating human knowledge. Science has shown us that there are many answers that science has not been able to prove. And you have to move into that transcendental level, which is talking about spirituality for you to be able to get answers about some things. Because some answers will come to you by revelation. Some answers will come to you by deep conviction. Some will come to you by intuition. That's your spiritual intuition. Some will come to you by just think about all those experiences that are transcendental, so that's where it's expected that life begins from. Okay, life does not just begin from what you and I see. The earlier the better you come to terms with that, the good it is for you to be able to get the full benefit of the spiritual dimension. So for me, when you begin to seek for knowledge, when you begin to seek for meaning, you begin to seek for relevance, you begin to seek for the premise of your purpose, and then be able to now connect at that level is what spirituality is all about. So it's a process, it's a journey. It's not something that you just say you've attained, similarly because you are being exposed or you are now conscious about it. Remember, 2 days ago, I mentioned to you that one of the benefits or one of the importance of spiritual dimension has to do with the level of consciousness it brings. okay, the level of connection you achieve at that level, which enables you to have control over your life and over other dominating factors, within other dimensions. So the other aspect of this meaning also talks about the governance of yourself. Life as we know it might be very difficult for you to put yourself under control. So how then do you govern yourself? Like things that you want to do, you find yourself not doing. The things you don't want to do, you find yourself doing. So how do you govern yourself, right? How do you ensure that you tame your passion, your unwanted desires, you tame them, you put them under control so that you don't constantly fall into self-indulgence. So it's something that spirituality defines for you. Despite it's a dimension that is limitless, is a dimension that is without boundary, right? It then controls all the other dimensions that with boundaries. I mean, when you're looking at the physical life, it has boundaries. That is why you talk about domains. The boundaries of Nigeria is different from the boundaries of United Kingdom. If anybody contravenes the laws that separate those boundaries, even as simple as our neighbor here in Benin Republic, when you cross that boundary, you see conflicts ensue, and it will now become the war of superiority, right? So how then do you govern all of this confusion, which may be necessitated by indulgence? Someone can just wake up and say he has sovereign power over some other little domain, or people that can't really stand up to such power, like you are seeing with all these other countries trying to take over some other people's land, by just overpowering them, bombarding them. You see Russia and Ukraine, you see China and Taiwan, you see between Israel and the Gaza Strip. I mean, all of these crises, humanitarian crises that you see everywhere in the world, is as a result of lack of proper governance, of human indulgence. Someone can just wake up and say, because he has this level of power and this level of influence, and just irrationally decide to move against the course of nature, or do things that will create some level of imbalances within the ecosystem. So how do you put a check? How do you put a control, more like uh, a whip over the neck of the horse, in order to be able to chart properly, the speed of the horse? That is one of the things that spirituality helps to do. So when they tell you that everything is being controlled in the spiritual dimension, this is exactly what they mean, because at that level, it is limitless. However, the capacity that is being given because of the limitless nature of the dimension helps to govern properly the other dimensions of life. Then one will now begin to think about the need for this integration that I'm trying to push forward here as a conversation. You have other aspects of life. Why can't you deal with them as they are? The ones that has limits. Why don't you just deal with them at that level with the frameworks? And the one that is unlimited, why don't you just deal with them like that? There's a reason for that, if at all, because when you look at the nature of man, I told you we are tripartite in nature. You have the spirit, you have the soul, and you have the body, or soma, right? If at all, the whole man, which is made up of these three paths, if the whole man is going to achieve the main reason why he or she is here on earth, okay, if you need to understand and achieve that reason, which we call or term to be purpose, you're going to achieve it, you have to ensure that the unlimited dimension is integrated with the limited dimensions. That integration must happen. Otherwise, like I put also in statistics to you, like imagine out of these three, someone is operating in two or living by the standards of two, and you leave out one. That means it's incomplete. It's not 100%. You're having sheer imperfection because it's not even up to excellent, even if it's not outstanding, it's not up to excellent. That's about 67% at best, right? So there's a need for you to have that uh, uh, um, formidable integration, which will then ensure the consistency along the path of your living. So when you are talking about someone pursuing purpose, we are talking about someone, aiming to achieve purpose in life is singularly because you have been able to harness the opportunities within the limitless dimension in spirituality and then translate that into how you govern the control, within the limited dimensions. I'm not going to go into details about this because each of you should then begin to picture your life. I mean, you can put the picture before yourself as I'm having this conversation and see how these are played. All those areas of your limited dimensions, your relationship, your career, your physical life, your health, where you're having challenges, where it seems as if you are losing control. The simple answer to it is because you have not been able to connect effectively to opportunities that abound in the limitless or limited, boundless dimension, which is the spirituality. So that is the need for the integration. So you have to find a way by which you bring the introduction of that dimension to have control over all areas of your life. And you see how easy and simple the level of understanding of how this thing is. Then life as we know it today, I didn't live too much in the past. You know, I've just been barely 4 decades on earth. So I wouldn't know what happened 5 decades, 6 decades, 10, I mean, 4,000 years ago, or even live BC. I don't know what happened. So I wouldn't want to talk about that, but as life as we know it today requires adaptability, requires some level of skills where you continually adapt to changes, because of level of disruption happening. And wherever you institute the concept of change, that you also require resilience, and little wonder they said Nigerians are the most resilient people. We suffer and we smile, but that's not the true meaning of resilience. So this is one of the reasons why there has to be some level of integration as well, because what optimize, your resilience skill has to come from the unlimited dimension where you are not just only going to see before you believe. There is also an aspect of hope, that resilience understand the protocol. I hope you are following my thoughts. When you're talking about resilience, it's not just based on things you see, right? It's not based on the things you see. It has to also be premised on some level of convictions, which is predicated on hope, right? So these are the things that the integration will bring about. It will introduce hope in hopeless situation because limited dimensions might institute hopelessness, you know, and in years across timeline, people might not be able to connect with the reality of hope. But when you take in the dimension of spirituality, then you begin to see rays of hope. There's an article I wrote almost about 15 years ago around this. I'm just remembering now, because at that time, I looked around me, almost everybody uh, that were around me has completely lost hope in Nigeria. In fact, at that time, the arguments and the drive was how people are going to run away. So when you hear this jackpot of a thing, it's not just now, it's always been there, right from the time of US, uh, uh, what's it called now, when people were doing all these, the name has run out of my head now, you know, there's this application that people used to do way back then. Everybody wants to run over to US. So the Japa syndrome had always been, it's like, it's part of a resilient character, when you think that you can't cope again, you just have to relocate and move forward. So the aspect of this spirituality in the dimension will help you to see how to govern, whatever aspect of life or tides of life that is turned to you. And once you're able to have that control, consequence, you are going to see the way you will attain desirable level of harmony, peace. I mean, we talked about this a few days ago as well, how you can attain to the level of ensuring harmony and peace, which begins from within you and then is reflected in your actions. So these are part of the reasons why you need to ensure this. So what then are going to be the benefits of spirituality? For me, it's endless. Uh, is as you grow and as you move along the journey that you begin to see the benefit unfold. But depending on the level at which you are, some of those struggles on the principles and the concept we've discussed, if you are operating and living at that dimension, there will not be any struggle at the end of the day. When I was sharing some of my own personal experiences with you, why I'm so convinced about certain things that will happen and certain that will not happen is because of the command and the control at the spiritual dimension. Because some of these things can't be ordinary. They have to be transcendental. They have to be supernatural practices and experiences. You know, um, for one, for instance, about my health or my well-being, anytime I have stress-induced ailments, maybe as an headache, migraine, and all of that, I don't quickly rush and turn to drugs and take drugs because I have a better understanding. You know, or when I'm seeing signs of depression or anxiety, I mean, I'm losing control over a situation singularly because of pressure, right? I know how to take control of my situation because of my understanding about spirituality. Sometimes I will just engage in spiritual practice. Sometimes I can just pray right there and I don't need to pray loud and everybody hearing me, but my spirit is engaged. I begin to meditate on some words, scriptures and all of that I've put in my mind. And before long, I just see that I've already taken control of everything. And people will just like, this one is performing magic. Why are you not agitated when everybody is agitated? Or the last incident, I gave you on last Thursday, about the issue of traffic and all of that. I mean, just subtly like that, I just intuitively felt, oh no, this shouldn't be, is abnormal, right? And I shouldn't be affected by the misgoverned behavior of certain people, blah, 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 and all of that. So these are part of the consequences of you operating at that level, living your life at that level, because if at all in this world, if I know any other way, trust me, I will have done you that favor. But unfortunately, I, for one, don't know any other way. You see, all those things we've discussed so far, for you to be able to gain continuous momentum, they are perfect, they are wonderful. But hey, they all have their limits. Trust me, they all have their limits. But what doesn't have limits is this issue of spirituality. And it depends on how much you want to grow in that dimension for you to see the limitless power, the limitless boundaries that you can attain, at that level. So again, um, some people have had opportunity to really engage at this level that when you see evidences, when you see the outcome of their life, people will wonder, how are they doing it? It is not magic, right? It is not magic. It is just that spiritual influence that the creator of life has placed within that dimension, that it is only those that attain and see the need to dwell and live to command their entire life at that level that can really, and very few people have that inclination. So I'm hoping that you are also going to be part of the people who will take full advantage of that, because that's the only way we can actually command our lives and govern it and don't allow undue influences over our lives. I remember one of the arguments I also have with some of my friends, when we're talking about um, all these spiritism and all of that. I told them, yeah, I mean, all these things exist, but I'd rather stick to my belief in spirituality because that talks more about my own responsibility, as I explained to you, than just having a causative way of thinking about the spirit dimension, the spiritual dimension. It's about spirituality because it brings in your own responsibility into the play. I mean, there is no void in nature, even in the spiritual realm, no void. So you don't think that something will, or things should happen by default. No, so when you leave things to chance and you allow void to happen in whatever dimension, even including this limited dimension, that's when people now begin to move into the manifestation of spiritism, whatever it is, which you now begin to see in terms of Welgian influence, manipulation, and all of sorts. So yeah, it exists. You see witchcraft, you see occultism, you see all of these things being happening at those realms. So they might also have some kind of fringe benefits that people, like some of them will even promise you wealth, they'll promise you all of these things and all of that, but they are quite deceptive because they are pseudo truth to what the real reality, the true reality is in the spiritual realm. They are pseudo truth, which you don't want to delve into by moving into this dimension, and you are now being subjected into not taking the necessary actions and all of that you need to do. Then other aspect of life which you think you don't know about yourself, okay, you'll begin to see ways by which this thing can be revealed to you. Talking about the full self-awareness, talking about the full understanding for you to accept all those things that you have analyzed about yourself. When you did the test, the results, you first imagine that, can this really be me? You know, it might be it might be a real struggle because what you've known to be part of you all over these years, now you are seeing something new. Or someone just give you some compliment and like, do you know this is who you are? And like, no, it can't be me and all of that. At that level, in that dimension, you'll be able to see the real picture of who you are in order for you to be able to appreciate and then know how to govern your life, right? So generally, the benefits suffice that whatever it is that you don't have control over in the physical realm and in other dimensions of your life, with spirituality, you can have not just aspect of the control, you can have total control of your life, and it will be so. So just have that inclination in your mind. It will be so, and you only need to have an experience before you know that it is so. So everything has spirit. Everything in nature, living, has a spirit, and they also respond to things in the spirit. Okay, please, if you have any question, I would like you to bring it up so that we can have um, focused discussion on any area, or perhaps there's any form of confusion in all these things I'm talking about. So for me, there are several ways by which you can carry out this integration. Okay, there are different ways by which you can integrate your spirituality into every aspect of your life. The first one, which is pretty easier, has to do with what you do on a daily basis, what I call daily practices. Okay, regardless of what your faith is, regardless of what your spiritual inclination is, you can actually engage in prayer. We talked about meditation being one of the example of mindfulness practices. So you can also engage in meditation. And this one has to be fruitful meditation. It has to be effective meditation, not meditation that does not uplift your life. And part of meditation might be that you are even reading. Okay, you read and then you study, and then you are able to ruminate, because these are the process of meditation. You ruminate. If you don't have anything filled up in your mind, then your meditation cannot be fruitful, because it's a mindfulness exercise. So there must be something filled in your mind which you need to ruminate on, which you need to muse on, which you need to ponder on, right? So that is how effective meditation can be. So sometimes you might need to study, or those things you study, you're able to now bring back to memory. Then you also have creedal affirmations, right? Based on your religious background or your faith alignment. Okay, there are some faith that have specific creedal affirmations. The reason for this is so that you are not tossed to and fro with winds of doctrine. You are not misguided by soothsayers. You are not misguided by purported proponent of certain religious ideologies. So you need to understand which particular creed of your faith you're aligned with, and that becomes your affirmation. So on a daily basis, you're affirming it to yourself, because these are part of the things that will lead into your transcendental experiences. I'll give you a very example. Part of my own creed has to do with the belief that I cannot be poor. I'm not talking about motivation now, right? I believe so much that I can't be poor. And what does poverty really mean? It means that when you need something, you don't have it. I mean, that's a simple way I interpret poverty. You need something and you don't have it, then you become frustrated before you even get to abject poverty, when there is a consistency in your needs not being met. So I'm not talking about wants now, needs, the basic necessities of life. So there are certain things in the world that have been organized, either through political governance or whatever, to ensure that people are put into this condition in life. So part of my own creedal belief has to do with the fact that I can't partake in those things. Even right there, even if I'm placed in such a situation, I can engage on a daily basis, using my spiritual integration to pave way for myself, so that when others are partaking in such experiences, I'll always be an exception. I mean, these things may sound like how should I put it now, logic, but trust me, they are practical things, because whatever it is that I'm trying to look for easy way to make you connect to this thing. Whatever it is that you placed your intuitive faith on, right, is what is going to work with for you, at least to an extent that you begin to see consistency. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Shadi. I mean, the issue about barrenness too. Yeah, I mean, these are critical needs of life, right? It's not a want. Reproduction is even part of what nature mandates on man. I mean, when you remember biology, when we're taught Mr. Niger, the characteristics of human being, reproduction is one of a necessity of life. So when people are now, for whatever reason, they're barren, how then can you control that aspect of life, that challenge in life? You can't achieve it just mere engaging in physical exercises. I'm sure some people will imagine, but science has brought about, yeah. People do insemination and all of that, but is it all insemination that succeed? I've known people that have tried it several times. So there is no 100% guarantee. So, but the only thing that can guarantee 100% is the integration of the spiritual realm, because the spiritual realm can control what naturally will not work in the physical realm and make it to work, in any aspect of your life. So things has to be governed at that level, and you can simply connect through creedal affirmations. So you want to be sure of the potency of your creed. You want to be sure. And how do you confirm potency? You have to look at, I told you a secret, that the greatest test that you can use to validate things in this limited world, in this limited dimension, has to do with time. Something that has stood the test of time has been proven over and over and over and over again with level of consistency, then you can actually establish that as a truth, because it then becomes absolute. Then you also have sacred mindsets, part of the things that you practice on a daily basis. And when I'm talking about sacred, I'm talking about things that you have taken to be sacrilegious. You've been able to not, when you're talking about sacred, I don't want you to look in the form of deity, like something that you have deified. No, I'm looking in the simplest form, something that you have separated, to be something that will give you that opportunity to connect transcendentally. I'll give you a very simple example. It might even be from the perspective of your value system, those values that you have set apart, integrity, and your integrity. You also talk about honesty. You talk about trust, your consistency, your love, All of these things, can form part of your sacred mindset. For me, when I'm telling people that I don't give trust, I hand trust, right? It's because I've seen it as a sacred. Sacred in the sense that I cannot breach trust. Once trust, you can give something on the platter of the fact that there's an interest driven. When something is earned, you know that it has a higher value. It has something that is beyond reparation, is beyond whatever it is that will limit human self-involvement in. You can take any of these things and make it the base of your mindset. Love, for instance. These are absolute things in life. When you are given an opportunity to have an experience of love, or you are exposed to this kind of things, how do you embrace it? Do you take advantage? Do you make it to be self-driven and all of that? So you can have some of these mindset, because by the time you begin to bring in these absoluteness into your value system, because they come with positive sanction, they come with positive outlook, then it begins to give you some level of connection to spirituality. Trust me, because you then begin to see in its true nature what the original intention of the creator of this absoluteness, what he has. I mean, sometimes they will tell you that love is blind. I'm sure a lot of us have a different opinion about it. They say, no, love is not blind. You open your eyes. But in trueness, in the true nature of love, love has to be blind. Love has to be blind for love to be love. Because if love is not blind, someone slap you on the side, why wouldn't you want to raise your hand to slap the other side of the person? It has to be a tooth for a tooth, right? It has to be a clock for a clock. You steal my hand. In fact, some people will even go to the extent of not just stealing the hand, they will steal the whole farm and all of that and do more damage. That can be the attitude of love, right? So when you look at all these values from its original nature, then it begins to connect you with the real intent of what they have. The same thing with trust. Once trust is earned, then you seal it up there and you always give benefit of that. This is how I always resolve conflict within myself, because of trust management. When I'm managing trust, no matter what happens, I always give this benefit of that, because I can imagine the person who has also given me trust for living, if he has not been giving me benefit of that, do you think I'll be opportuned to even leave it? So this is how you begin to engage at that level. When you have this sacred mindset, you will see life from a different perspective. And so many of the things that we worry about will not become a worry at all. Because one of the greatest control you're going to have over your life has to do with subduing anxiety. If you're able to subdue anxiety, you're able to subdue, apprehensions and all those negative energies that brews up when you are placed under pressure. Trust me, you will have helped yourself, controlling 50% of whatever challenge you're going to face in life. Then, the establishment of reverence. And this reverence is the opposite of phobia, you know, is the opposite of phobia. Whereas everything in life now has associated phobia to them. You have the phobia of water, phobia of animal, phobia of humans, whatever name they call them technically, but you have phobia associated to almost everything in nature now. Consequently, you can also, in the using spirituality and integration to life, you can also have reverence to whatever is the object of your faith. Okay, whatever is the object of your faith becomes the premise of your own reverence, right? So rather than fearing what all these other things normally will do, imagine when you stop getting afraid of whatever it is that causes agitation in your life. It gives you some level of audacity. It gives you some level of boldness, courage, and those steps of, leaps of faith that you have not been able to take over the years. It gives you that level. Like I used to tell people, there is nowhere I cannot stand to make bold of my convictions. Nowhere. There's nowhere, right? There's no place I cannot have a full expression of what I know, except I don't know. You can place me before the President of the United States. Everything I'm telling you, I will have a recap of it. Place me before the President of Nigeria. I mean, then you begin to seek for opportunity because of the fact that you have that audacity through reference. And like I said, the basis of your reference now is the fact that there is something supreme, there is something that is transcendental that controls every other thing. So why then will you now fear something or someone that is being controlled by himself? If you get what I mean. So these are part of the things that you need to practice, and you just need to practice it 1-2 times before you see how this thing works out. You want to go in for an exam and you are then afraid of failure simply because you have not really prepared. So how then do you overcome failure? You remember there's something that is even more powerful than failure itself, who or that will convert the mindset of failure into growth mindset for you. Because what everybody has seen failure to mean is in itself is not really what failure is. And maybe I should just mention this as well, that sometimes the kind of image, picture, video, scene that is being created to us in our mind when we begin to think about some of this phobia is part of what enslaves us or what limits us. Someone will tell you, oh, if you go through that path, snake will bite you. And because of that alone, you created a picture of you don't want to be beaten, and then you refuse to go through that path. Okay, so how then do you overcome that? You have to understand that there is something that controls or someone that controls that snake, who created the snake. And only if you can speak, audaciously, only if you can believe within yourself that no, even if there was going to be one person that will pass, that snake will not appear, it should be you. So that's one of the things that reference actually bring about in your life, which would then affect even your own mindset. And many times this has always been my own experience, and it works out, effectively. Then I've mentioned several times about the issue of deep convictions. A lot of people, it takes, maybe you have to, what's it called now, make a lot of defenses, a lot of argument before you attain the level of conviction on some of these things I've been sharing. It's okay. It's given, because it's not something that one will just attain. It's not something that one will just engage with, right? Because by the time you begin to, practice gradually, maybe you're praying, you are meditating, or you are actually making some kind of affirmations, you are changing your mindset about certain things, you will be curious. There's going to be a lot of questions you'll be asking and all of that. But hey, the more you get the right answers from all these questions, and not just basing it on empirical data, right? You are having some form of transcendental answers. Some will just come to you as a form of revelation because of your curiosity, because of your quest for answers. Then you begin to see them. Like, I will give you a very good example of how I attained some level of my convictions. I remember a few years ago when I was involved in some sporting activities, right? People will tell you, oh, if you do this thing, in fact, not just people, started with my mom. She would tell me, if you do this thing, this is what's going to be the consequence. Your vein will do this. Your vein, I mean, she started putting all those dark energy in my mind. Like, so that means I can never attain to be a professional footballer. Blah, blah, blah. So she just said all those things. Anytime I mentioned to her I want to go and play football, that thing will just bring to my mind that, your vein will be blocked, your vein will be affected, blah, blah, blah. Guess what? Before long, I started seeing the back of my knees, my heels, my leg, the veins started showing, you know. She would not be pointing, you see what I'm saying? Yeah, blah, blah. But the day I overcame that mindset, I just told myself, I said, even if this thing is going to be a major issue for whoever is playing football, I will always be an exception. You know, I mean, I just say it casually, and then that became my prayer point that, oh, I want to prove. to my mom that this thing is not going to affect me. That if at all I'm going to stop playing football, it should be my personal decision, not because I'm afraid of something that will happen. So I mean, and before long, I overcame it. So sometimes some incident will happen in life just to kind of like test your faith, to kind of like test the depth of your belief or your conviction on some things in life. You need to be prepared and go to the extent to which you want to attain, not just only, what's it called now, not just only the knowledge or knowing, but you also want to have an experience in order for you to be able to know that this thing is confirmed to be true. So that's what deep convictions can do. Then you also have the aspect of fellowshipping and establishing transcendental relationship. We know that the foundation of fellowshipping has to, of every fellowship or every relationship has to do with quality time being spent. I'm sure that some of us, even if we have never met before, because we have been in this space together for 35 days, I'm sure when we see each other, we won't have to be exchanging just ordinary pleasantries, because in one way or the other, lives have rubbed against each other. There had been a form of connection. There had been a form of, this is how subtle the subject of fellowshipping and relationship is. Now imagine if you do this repeatedly for 100 days, if you do this repeatedly for 200 days, if you do this repeatedly for the rest of your life, there is no way there is not going to be a transcendental experience. When you hear someone say, oh, he's fasting for 40 days, or is fasting for 100 days, is fasting for 300 days, and you wonder what exactly are they seeking for. So there are different avenues, there are different ways by which you can practice fellowshipping and then establish relationship. Even between two people who are engaged in mutual relationship, the real test of the quality of that relationship has to be time. You test the time over different seasons. You can't compare people who have been in a relationship for 2 years with someone who has been in a relationship for 40 years. And that is why the easy way I validate this, which now is very, very empirical, is I don't want to use biological, because science can prove it otherwise. Once you begin to look at gene and DNA formation, it might not be true from scientific perspective. But for me, when you look at it on the surface value, you see that my hypothesis or my judgment could be right. Have you ever observed two couples who have lived with each other, for more than 20 years? Please follow me carefully. This is my own findings. Two people started with my parents. Two people, two spouses love each other, obviously. And then that's kind of harmony, that kind of integrated lifestyle is within them. I'll give you some of these examples so that I'm not just talking out of sense. You see it observed within them as they live together for minimum of 20 years. Before long, you see that both of them start looking alike. In fact, sometimes they start speaking the same way or the same manner, as though they disciple each other or one disciple the other one. This is more like a command in nature, as it were. It's not just ordinary nature, it's transcendental, right? Because number one, as part of the practices for my parents, you see that they always wear similar clothes. I think this is even sometimes traditional. There's no way my mom was so close and I would not have a copy for my dad. So they are always looking, wearing the same clothes, kind of, except informal clothes. Maybe wearing English dress or whatever. But if they are traditional clothes, my two parents, both of them are always wearing the same thing. Then they go almost everywhere together. If my dad is traveling, my mom is always the handbag, and my mom rarely travel on her own terms. My dad is usually the one that is a traveler. So they always go everywhere together. They sleep on the same bed. They are not separated, by that, So you see that kind of communion, you see that kind of togetherness being enhanced, and they lived together for over 40 years before my dad died, you know. So when people say that, how come my dad and my mom look alike and all of that, I'm like, hey, Both of them are not even from the same tribe, right? I mean, it's two worlds wide apart, right? So it is part of what, I mean, that's the simplest way to understand what fellowshipping and what deep relationship can achieve in terms of creating that connect. So the connect is not just going to be even spiritual, the connect is also going to metamorphosize physically. So you can actually carve out ways by which these kind of fellowshipping, can happen in terms of spending quality time. And quality time does not mean longer period of time per time. It can be spread across, like consistency of the time being spent and the quality of interaction that happened, between the realms. Like, if you're doing it within your faith paradigms, right? You are praying to your God, and how you communicate with your God is not only when you need something that you run to Him, right? You have to create that kind of connection, to have this kind of intimate relationship, and then you see that life will make more sense to you, not using the objects of your worship as a point of utilitarian, anytime you need something, you can always pick from there. But even beyond that, you are also concerned about what has been vested on you as a purpose, and that now takes us to the final practical ways I want to talk about, which has to do with act of service. There is no way you are enjoying fellowship transcendentally that you will not begin to see your purpose from the point of service. Okay, there is no way. Trust me. Your purpose, what is called your purpose, there is no way you not begin to see it from the point of service. And that's why volunteering is so powerful. Everything I've achieved in my life, and not even from the perspective of what I've been paid to do in terms of my job, but things I've been able to do out of my volunteer service, out of my selfless act of service in any location or any community I find myself. And that is why I'm always giving to seek for more opportunity, as long as it's connected with my purpose. So the more you do this act of service, the more you are pushing the boundaries of the fulfillment of your purpose. So you don't need to wait until when you are being paid or called upon to do things. You always want to seek for such opportunity for you to. I mean, just this morning, there's an application I did a few weeks ago, seeking for a global opportunity for volunteer service and all of that. And I was just thinking about it while meditating this morning. That's how I could actually write them as a rider to, like, okay, because this is not going to cost me anything. It's just right there in my room at my leisure time. I can always look at ways to, because it has to do with my data management process or sustainability, blah, blah, blah. I mean, at my leisure in my room, I can easily, collate this information. There are things I know. They're not going to give me any stress or any extra effort to do, blah, blah, blah. So why don't I then go for it? So the interest in pursuing it is not because of the recognition I want. It's not even the money, because I remember then part of the application requires that I need to argue out amount of money. Now I want to even do it on my terms, not collecting money. So that is a sense of purpose, and that's the kind of ways by which we can then begin to, because life in itself has a way of paying you back for every act of service you do to improve the quality of the kind of transformation that will happen to nature. Okay, so some of these things are not explainable in the natural sense until when you begin to have the experience. That's when you understand. There are certain things that I'm sure that you might have been going, praying for, and all of that. When they happen, you just imagine, I mean, but I didn't do this. So how did it happen? That has always been the story of my life. Things I don't seek for, they just come my way, you know, to the point that sometimes I will have to even sit down and, like, I mean, let me even understand how these align to what I'm seeking for, or what my life trajectory is all about, so that I'm not derailed, because sometimes it can be a subtle derailment if care is not taken. So that's the way all these kind of act of services will come. And the more you carry them out, the more you're also going to be giving yourself some form of visibility without asking for them, because nature has a way of accepting such. So think about it. What are your gifts? What are your talents? What are the abilities you have as you're improving upon yourself? don't think it's just for you to be making money. It's also a way for you to establish yourself in giving back through the act of service. And the more you do this, the more you're going to be connecting spiritually. You know, and if you're a Christian, if you're a Muslim, whatever it is you are doing, there are always opportunity within your local communities for you to do this. When you go to your church, there are several communities that environment, that local denomination has built, which can give you opportunity for service. The same thing, if you're a Muslim, I'm sure there are several opportunities within such community which you can give into. But hey, don't forget the basic thing is about the purpose. So if you have not come to terms with your purpose, you are always going to have struggles with this. Trust me, you are always, everything I've said about these practical ways, they will not make sense. That's the honest truth. And if you are doing them for religious sake, it's not going to have any impact. So when you see people tell me, oh, but I've always been praying, but I'm not getting results, that answers the question. Oh, I've always been making confession. Oh, I even make affirmation. Oh, I believe and all of that. It's not just by the word of mouth, you know, it's not just by the word of mouth. It's by you yourself. You know within yourself that you have not come to terms with this. It's just like when they wake you up and ask you about your purpose, you can easily repeat over and over and over and over and over and over again. And you have laid hold of it. That's the kind of position you need to get to if you're going to grow. You're going to move in this direction. And for you to be able to command things in the realm of the spirit. Okay. My final thought is this. Many years ago, I came about this statement by Peralta de Chardin. And trust me, it is very, 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 very true. He said we are not human beings having a spiritual experience because that is what we have all been made to believe. Oh, you are a human being, so you are just having spiritual experience. No, it's the other way around. You are a spiritual being having human experience, meaning that the supernatural experience is transcendental and is far, far higher above the other experiences you've had in other dimension of your life. Whatever experience you're going to have, sweet, palatable, unpalatable in your relationship, in your job, in your career, in your financial life, every aspect of your life, that is nothing compared to the experience you are supposed to be having in your spiritual life. So imagine if you don't give attention to your spiritual life, that means you are going to be changing yourself. And that's what prayer is talking about. That's what Harold is talking about, having understood that. And that's what I'm also re-echoing to you. There are some things that you're agitating about in your physical life. If you can just give more attention to your spiritual life, you see how those things are going to be changing, right? How they are going to be turning around, how things are going to be turning around. And you just imagine that this is just working like a magic. It's not magic because that's the command and the order of things, right? So I will admonish you that you find a way to enhance your spirituality. The more you seek, the more you're able to lay hold of so that holistically you can see the way you refine your life and then connect to purpose. And the consistency is what you need to embrace as the behavior, as your attitude. It's not something that you just do today. And as simple as reading. So people will just pick up, read today, and tomorrow they are no longer reading. And they'll tell you it's the cares of life. There are so many things to attend to, prioritization. Just like we have many people started this journey and look at how many remain till today. So you have all these challenges to deal with, but you have to embrace tenacity. You have to be relentless. You have to also remain focused so that you can ensure the kind of transformation that you need to experience in your life. All those things that become nagging, they can be turned around. Miracles still happen. And finally, I will also admonish that you ensure the integration of this spirituality in all aspects of your life. Don't even, you don't stand a chance to win over the struggle. Trust me, because of the limitation of your knowledge, limitation of your experiences, which will always be there anyway. And of course, the limitation of the control in terms of the power that you will wage. Not everybody will be born with silver spoon, right? And even those that are born with the silver spoon, they reach also cry. So how then do you ensure that you deal with all the things that will naturally come with challenges to you in life and still ensure win? Is when you have this integration of spirituality and you're able to control things from the spiritual realm. I believe if you're able to live life on these terms, you will see the difference in your life. Be able to practice some of these ways of attaining some levels in the spiritual realm. I'm sure the more you pray, the more you study, the more you make those affirmations of your creed of faith, reminding yourself of your value system, of your core beliefs. I'm very, very sure that this will connect you to the real essence, of the power behind all things, and then give you that sense of purpose that will give you the right trajectory towards your goal. So I'm going to stop here and I will ask you, this is just supposed to be a reflection. And I know I've said a lot, but if there are questions, maybe uh, you're on a spiritual journey in the spiritual realm and you feel that you're having some challenges, some inconsistencies. What do you think are the causes? Having heard today the need for consistency and focus, how can you ensure? I mean, I would like you to just share and probably bring up issues that we can discuss further on. So comments, feedbacks, question, talking about spirituality. Question, comment. Hmm. Yeah, Utsman, thank you. Thank you. Let me sound this warning. If you know, I mean, I'm just being very, very frank here. If you know that you will not even ensure consistency, it's good not to dive into that realm. Don't forget, I told you about the issue of manipulation. So lukewarmness is not permissible at that realm and in that dimension. It's not like, let me try the waters, like you do in relationship, like you do in other dimensions where you have limitations. So when you are not even sure of certain things, you dive into it. It's not like that. There must be deep convictions before you move and travel through certain levels at this dimension. Otherwise, you can easily be derailed. You can easily be derailed, trust me. For instance, if you don't have deep conviction over a particular religion, why then do you have to practice it? Why do you have to practice it? Some people don't even understand the basis of their faith, and yet they are just doing it simply because, oh, it's my parents. Some people will tell you that, oh, they are even born in that religion. I mean, life cannot be lived on that terms, trust me. And if that is how you have been living life, now is the best time to have a rethink. It can't be lived like that. It starts from you questioning a whole lot of things in order for you to be able to get the basis for your conviction. You see, those creedal affirmation I talked about, it will not make sense for you if you don't have the basis, the reason for your belief. So that's where to start from. So I'm saying this because I won't have shown you all of these and then now plunge you into more error or more difficulties where you now be unduly exposed, to a lot of manipulations and a lot of transcendental errors. Any question? Any comments? Maybe there are other
Yes,
perspectives to this. Okay.
yes, sir.
Yeah,
Thank you very
Usman,
much, sir. Thank you very much for
you're
tonight, sir.
welcome.
It was to be, but to me, as far as I'm concerned, I believe that spirituality is a deep down conviction one needs to have. Let me start. I have seriously, this is just encompassing. I have some little things that are related to me, and I would like to start from this when you mentioned the act of service. I I had just I'm just kind of person who believe in impacting knowledge to the extent that when sometimes let me say not the Western parts, let me say the Arabic part sometimes. I'm not the knowledge I'm not that knowledgeable one about it actually. I'm just a little bit I have a little bit knowledge a kind of knowledge about it. So when it talks about like imparting knowledge in the that space in that Arabic part, I sometimes I believe that even people can pay for the charges for the charges I'm going to offer in that part, in that aspect. So I don't think some for myself that I can even I just believe that it is better to do it free of free free of charge without even taking any payment from it. And that is born out of the fact that it's being a kind of succor, kind of peace to me when I do it. Like it's just how will I put this now? Like when I after offering the service of teaching of impacting knowledge, it does bring a total peace into me, and it's kind of it's a kind of conviction that I have that when you teach, like, you get more rewards and a lot of things. It's just beyond the what you see here. Just like transcendental the way you see that. So about that, that is relatable to me a lot. And then of recently now, I'm of this opinion that this life just that you make your effort, you work hard, you work smart, anything you want to do, just do that. And then want to back it up with prayer as part of the ways you mentioned of want to attain spirituality. I just believe that with those two things, when you put in your effort, you pray and you pray, you have this kind of when you after putting the effort, I believe that you need to pray. And then we have there's this thing that say that pray as if like in school when you're in school, say that pray as if you don't read and read as if you do not pray. So same thing, pray as if you don't put any effort in what you are doing, and put more effort as if you are not praying, like you're not praying. So I just believe that when you pray about whatever you are doing, even so little that thing may be, with prayer and a deep conviction that this what I'm doing is I'm the right way, I believe that you attain, you surely attain what you believe you are working on, or the effort you are putting in. Sooner or later, that will surely come to pass that whatever you are doing, you will get it right, and you'll get it in the best way that even you yourself can't even explain how you get it. And that I just believe that is just kind of for one to attain that, you need to have a very deep conviction about that, very deep conviction, very deep conviction that this is what I'm doing, with backing it up with prayer. It will surely come to pass. It will surely come to you the way you envisage it. So I'm sorry. Lastly, I would like to. I don't know. It's a kind of question, or I don't know if I'm asking a question, or I don't know how to put it down. Can someone control the what is it? So can someone control its or his or her spirituality, like the other realm that is the center of life? Can someone control it? So I would love to ask that. Should be the last part of this my talk.
Okay, thank you, Hutman, and I appreciate your perspective. We I can overemphasize the import of deep convictions in living life. In fact, I've come to realize that the only way out when you are faced with serious life situations, I mean serious life situations that can be very overwhelming. I mean, it comes in different shapes and forms. For some, might just be those challenges that's just overbearing and they keep nagging, you know. You can't just move forward because of this. How do you deal with that? It's because of, I mean, your deep conviction will come to bear, right? Because you get to a point where you become so resolute right? You become so resolute because of what you know that you know. So that's what I mean by deep convictions. And what you know, nobody can take it away from you, even if the current reality is not saying the same thing. But you then begin to bring in the aspect of hope. There's hope against hope that then comes to bear by then. So that's how important it is. Based on the question you asked, how can one control himself or herself in the spiritual realm? I mean, this thing is, when you're talking about the spiritual dimension, you know, the way you live in the spiritual dimension is in different levels. Okay. The way I operate or live in the spiritual dimension might be different from the way you operate. It depends on the level of growth. So some might just, like people who have not really taken a good command of that realm or that dimension in their life, you can't compare to people who have been in that space for a while and have been, with the help of God, has been doing a lot of exploits, and been having a lot of requisite experiences. With the issue of prayers we just mentioned now, is one of the ways by which you can actually gain control and actually improve on yourself. And how does prayer help in achieving that? The more you pray and you get answers, the deeper your convictions. I hope you get what I'm saying here. When I'm talking about answered prayers, I mean, just imagine you labor praying for something and you receive the answers. There is no better way God can explain the fact that He's actually involved in your matter other than that. You pray and you receive the answers. Sometimes you receive instantaneously. Sometimes you persist, but you get it at the end of the day. So prayer is one of such. And that is why you need to make it as part of your daily practices. Is one of the easy way. The same thing with meditation, and meditation speaks to the other side of mindfulness, when you are able to uh, uh, um, have control of your environment or control of situations directly. Intuitively, you're able to, see through either revelation or inspiration or through divine intuition. You are able to intuitively. Okay, let me give you one instance. The way at the level at which I operate with emotional intelligence now, even though I've not done any recent test on myself in the past almost about 4 months, right? But I can see the pattern. The way I operate at EQ now, I'm sure that it can be less than between 90 to 90 something percent. And how did I get to that level? Is through the spirituality, not because there is something. I've not attended any special course on EQ in almost about 2 years. And apart from this kind of knowledge sharing, I've not done anything so spectacular about EQ. But because of the way I've been laboring, building fellowships, building some level of connection, using spirituality and all of that, has improved tremendously my spiritual discernment, because that's the highest level of EQ, discernment, spiritual discernment. Before someone behaves, you can easily predetermine what the behavior of the person will be. Or before someone, I mean, sometimes it seems like a deja vu. If you understand what I mean, it seems like a deja vu. So it's a level. So this is how you can get those control. But the practice, the daily practice, is what's going to help you, for you to be able to get to that level. And maybe finally, to respond to you, I would also like to revert back to the basis. I mean, the basis, what I mean by the basis. And that basis has to do with the foundation upon which you are building all these exploits and search spiritually. If it's not based on truth, if it's not based on absolute truth, it's just a matter of time. It's like someone that lay a wrong foundation. Even when you have built a skyscraper, it might take 10 years, it might take 20 years before everything collapses. But the reality is it will surely collapse. So you need a strong foundation. You need to build on a formidable foundation, which nothing can shake, right? So it has to be part of the curiosity to, first of all, determine this foundation upon which I'm standing, this house that I'm trying to build, this life that I'm trying to build, I'm trying to grow. is it actually built on the right foundation? So that once you enter into the spiritual realm, you don't begin to now triangulate into the right direction. Like someone that built his life on Zoroastrianism, someone that built his life on Buddhism, Judaism, all this world religion and all of that. I mean, you can easily predetermine. That is why in their mindfulness, they get to a point whereby they get stuck. And some of them can even get derailed and all of that. And that is why I don't want to ever talk about any of those practices in my class. Even though mindfulness studies started from yoga, in Buddhism. So you have to be careful. So you evaluate your foundation and be sure that you are actually on a firm and a strong foundation. Then every other thing becomes pretty easier as you practice and build, yourself with the practice. I hope that helps, Utman. Any other question, comments? Any other question, comments, feedback? Okay, I think we'll have to stop here then. So we will start the final lap tomorrow. Please make sure you don't miss the remainder of this session. And if you have any outstanding um, assignments, please send out. And please make sure you take the advantage and the call away. You can always reach out to me anytime or send a mail.